A Super Tuesday Southern sweep. Former Vice President Joe Biden winning big on Super Tuesday, taking the lead in the 2020 Democratic primary.
You cannot beat Trump with the same old kind of politics. What we need is a new politics.
State of the race. Bernie Sanders is already back out on the campaign trail. We'll talk delegate strategy for the top two Democratic contenders.
And the Biden bump. News of Joe Biden's Super Tuesday win pushes futures higher after the Fed tries but fails to help calm coronavirus fears. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to our special coverage of this Super Tuesday results. This morning, it is in fact Super Wednesday, March 4th. I'm J.D. Durkin.
And I'm Hannah Doba. It's time to wake up with Cheddar. Let's get right to it. Welcome to Cheddar News Super Tuesday coverage. It was a super Southern sweep for former Vice President Joe Biden. After many doubts about the viability of his campaign, Biden claims victory in 9 out of 14 states that held primary votes last night in the 2020 campaign.
Texas was the latest state to close polls and call in favor of the former VP. Biden also winning all across the South, claiming victories in states like Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, North Carolina, as well as the Commonwealth of Virginia and Oklahoma. In a major upset, Biden also winning the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, beating out Senator Elizabeth Warren in her own home state, even beating Bernie Sanders from neighboring Vermont. Biden also winning big in Minnesota. He secured support from that state's Senator Amy Klobuchar just a few short days ago.
For his part, Bernie's biggest win was over in California, winning 30% of the vote there. He also handily won in his home state. Vermont also came out on top in Colorado and Utah. This means a huge shift in the delegate count. Biden now leading the field with 453 delegates to Sanders' 382. Senator Elizabeth Warren now in a distant third with just 50 delegates, essentially making this a two-man race. Biden's got a comfortable lead for now, but there is plenty of primary voting left before we get to the convention in July. You need 1,990 delegates to secure the nomination, so things are just getting started.
And after losing the first couple of contests in the Democratic primary earlier in the last few weeks, Joe Biden touted the new life injected directly into his campaign, a surge in Joe-mentum, as some people are now calling it. After Bernie Sanders won the first major contest in the Democratic primary, a lot of people out there doubted Biden's campaign would survive at all, even before the polls had closed. However, Biden said he had proved the doubters wrong at a rally in Los Angeles.
Those have been knocked down, counted out, left behind. This is your campaign. Just a few days ago, the press and the pundits had declared the campaign dead. And then came South Carolina, and they had something to say about it. And we're told, well, when it got to Super Tuesday, it'd be over. Well, it may be over for the other guy. Tell that to the folks in Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Minnesota, and maybe even Massachusetts. It's too close to call. We're still waiting for Texas and California, a few other small states to come in. But it's looking good. So I'm here to report we are very much alive.
Biden now beating out the former frontrunner Bernie Sanders, who didn't particularly have a bad night last night, although he did not keep up the momentum he'd built in Nevada and New Hampshire early on. Sanders celebrated his victories in his home state, Vermont, making a stark contrast with Biden without mentioning the former vice president by name, warning voters they won't beat Trump using the politics of the past.
You cannot beat Trump with the same old kind of politics. What we need is a new politics that brings working class people into our political movement, which brings young people into our political movement, and which in November will create the highest voter turnout in American political history.
All right, now, of course, we do have to note that Bernie Sanders' win in the great state of California is big for the Vermont senator. Sanders winning the state with the most delegates on the line, though there is still certainly plenty left to go around. California's Democrats are split, and with so many absentee as well as mail-in ballots still to be counted, it could be days or even weeks before we know exactly how many delegates Sanders ended up winning from the Golden State. Senator Bernie Sanders already back on the road, however, headed to Phoenix, Arizona to continue his own primary push.
Okay, let's talk briefly about the other contenders who didn't have the best showings last night. Elizabeth Warren did not win any Super Tuesday contest, not even in her home state of Massachusetts. However, she's not out of the race just yet. After losing in South Carolina over the weekend, she pledged to continue to campaign at least through March. We'll see if the Super Tuesday results change that equation at all.
And Michael Bloomberg was also on the ballot for the first time, but it could also be his last time on the ballot. Bloomberg also did not win anywhere in this great country except in American Samoa, way on the other side of the Pacific. After a campaign rally, Bloomberg officially on his way back home to New York to reassess whether to continue his own 2020 bid after last night's results. And this was a Cheddar exclusive, first broadcast last night here, and whether Michael Bloomberg is weighing to stay in this race or not. He has made a big ad buy. His first post-Super Tuesday slate of ads set to officially hit states like Florida, New York, Illinois, Ohio, as well as Michigan, pumping nearly $7 million into ads on cable, broadcast, radio, and digital platforms over the course of the next few days. Bloomberg could still drop out soon, it is worth noting, but he is hitting the airwaves with a two-day advertising blitz starting this morning. He is buying $1.7 million, we reported first last night, worth of advertisements in the state of Florida alone, where Bloomberg held his campaign rally. According to data from Advertising Analytics, we will see who is still in the race before next Tuesday's round of primary voting.
Now let's head over to the New York Stock Exchange for an update on the markets. And Jill Wagner's at the New York Stock Exchange. Hello, Jill. Good morning. Another dismal day on Wall Street yesterday. How are futures looking?
Well, good morning, JD and Henna. Futures are actually pointing to a sharp pop at the open after Joe Biden's big Super Tuesday wins. Yesterday, though, another down day on Wall Street after the Fed made a surprising rate cut. It was a historic move in reaction to the spread of coronavirus. So where did things stand with coronavirus? The total number of cases worldwide now past 93,000. The death toll at nearly 3,200. That's according to data compiled by Johns Hopkins University. U.S. cases now at 127 with 9 deaths and 8 recoveries. All 9 deaths are in Washington state. The spread of coronavirus, or COVID-19, causing the cancellation of major corporate events, and large businesses are telling employees to work from home. South Korea, around the world, the hardest hit country outside of China, has 5,621 cases of COVID-19, also according to Johns Hopkins, with 516 new cases and 4 additional deaths. A mass screening effort remains underway in South Korea, which includes databases that accurately track the spread of the virus. Italy also reporting a spike in cases to more than 2,500. The death toll there at 79. That country now the second hardest hit outside of China. Additional headlines from the region: Iran reporting nearly 36 Iranian government officials and members of parliament have coronavirus. A senior advisor to the supreme leader among the dead from the outbreak. Iran currently has more than 2,300 cases of coronavirus, the third highest in the world outside of China. All right, let's take a look as well now at the markets. Futures, again, pointing to about a 600-point higher open for the Dow. Investors reacting mostly to Biden's southern sweep on Super Tuesday, coming after a volatile few days here. Markets ending yesterday's session much lower despite that historic rate cut. And we are, of course, still watching for results from Super Tuesday. Stay with us for ongoing coverage there. On Tuesday, the Fed slashed interest rates by a whopping 0.5 percentage point in that emergency rate cut. The news notable, not just for the size of the cut, but also for the timing. The last time that the Fed cut rates outside of a regularly scheduled meeting was during the peak of the financial crisis. So that move from the Fed underscoring just how seriously coronavirus is expected to impact the economy. In tweets, President Trump immediately criticized the Fed for not cutting interest rates even more. After an initial pop, markets actually saw a dramatic drop on the news. the Fed even sparking some new worries because investors are thinking perhaps coronavirus could be even worse than expected, driving that market fall. Despite those lower rates, coronavirus is what economists call a systemic risk. It's something that affects the overall market rather than weakness in one particular sector. So in other words, more money into the economy, not necessarily going to encourage more businesses to remain open. Markets in Asia mixed today. Japan, South Korea, the Shanghai and China all higher. Hong Kong lower. China, meanwhile, reporting an 80% drop in passenger car retail sales. With the coronavirus outbreak, they're forcing both customers and dealers to stay at home. China is the world's largest auto market. That country's services sector also reporting its worst month since the survey began 15 years ago. In Europe, markets pushing into positive territory, investors assessing the U.S. Fed's rate cut and the spread of COVID-19. Turning to other sectors that we're watching, yields on the U.S. 10-year have fallen below 1% for the first time, triggered by that emergency rate cut from the Fed. Investors fleeing to longer-term assets like bonds, causing yields to drop. So could be in store for another crazy day here.
All right, that's Jill Wagner on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Thank you so much, Jill. Good to have you join us this morning.
And coming up, more of our Super Wednesday coverage, plus an update on the coronavirus outbreak that the Fed can't seem to beat. There's more. Wake up with Cheddar right after the break.